Okay guys, I have to do this all over because I had to discover the do not disturb setting on my cell phone. But I'm going to try to keep this as straight to the point and the facts. I am not as eloquent with words, so I have my sworn affidavit right here to help keep me on track. And so my name is Sarah Leva, by the way, and these are my beautiful children. Taken just a couple months before they were taken. My babies, they love soccer. I want to start off by listing all the people that were involved and are aware that this happened and took part in making it happen. For the Tarrant County 360th Circuit Court in the state of Texas, it would be the Honorable Patricia Baca Bennett and the Honorable Randy Canterman, who by the way is retired. And then it would be Amelia County Court, Virginia, the Honorable Valentine Southall Jr., Stephanie Holan, attorney for me, Nathan Hatton, he was my first attorney to defend me, and I will say that this man did defend me. He did have to pull out when things started happening. He was a newer attorney. He did do his best. I think that this just went way above his head, but I just want to state that I do not find him a guilty party in any way, shape, or form. He was amazing. And he definitely defended me. Also, Lindsay Newell, attorney for Nicholas Leva, and Taylor McPherson, amicus and child advocate, and then Mary Beth Adcock, who was Nicholas Leva's mother, who physically removed the children from the state of Texas. There were additional witnesses, but I don't feel a need to list all the witnesses. That is in the federal affidavit. If anybody would like a copy of it after they see this, please contact me. I will be happy to email you a copy. So what happened is our backstory. So both of my children were born in the state of Virginia. Nicholas Leva was Virginia National Guard. And we had had problems with our marriage. We had separated once before. There was domestic abuse. I'm not going to go into the specifics of it until the investigation is concluded, because I would like to have the investigation to come to a conclusion and then speak on it then. I just don't want to speak on something where he hasn't been prosecuted yet. Okay, now, so we've been in the state of Virginia, and he moved me to Texas with my children, saying that he was lonely, he missed his friends, this was going to save our marriage, it was going to keep our family together. And in 6 months, he filed for divorce. So he waited until jurisdiction fell into Texas instead of jurisdiction being in Virginia. Now, thankfully, I had an amazing lawyer and judges. I mean, it was very obvious that he was abusive. He cut me off from all of our finances. He put locks on our house. He told everyone I was crazy. He told everyone I was threatening him, and the judge saw right through it. And I don't know if you know this, but there's no such thing as financial, I don't know what it's called. They do child support, but they don't do support for the wife through divorce. But I was granted temporary financial support in addition to child support. And Nick was refusing to turn in any of his financial records. He lost his temper in the courtroom. It was great because it showed who he truly was. And we were able to get an mediated divorce settlement, which he signed of his own volition. And this agreement stated that I had primary custody of the children, it had visitation on it, and it also gave me geographical custody. Now, geographical custody was in there so I could go back home to where my friends and family and everyone I knew was. And so I did. I moved to Virginia. This order was signed, mediated order was signed January 29th, 2016 by a family court judge. I can't remember his name. I don't have the paperwork in front of me, but yeah. Anyway, after I moved to Virginia, Nicholas immediately filed a case for kidnapping. The charges were dropped due to our mediated agreement. He did not make any claims of neglect, abuse, mental illness, or any other accusation in regards to me or the well-being of the children. just stated I kidnapped them. And that was dropped. He maintained very minimal contact with the children. They've never received a birthday card. They've never gotten anything from him. I've never gotten any additional support with school supplies. Part of the mediated agreement is I did definitely cut down child support. I don't want to make that what it's about, but that's the reason he signed it, was because he's ended up paying $400 to $450 a month for 2 children versus the $800 to $1,000 a month, which Texas would normally take, because it's, I believe, 25% for 2 children. But that's a completely different issue and not the issue. I just wanted to include why he agreed to sign the mediated agreement and where his priorities lied. So then suddenly, after minimal contact, he did see them for summers, and I assisted with visits. I did my best to co-parent with him in accordance with our agreement. In 2018 August, he filed for custody in the state of Texas. And this is where things started to go sideways. So obviously, federal jurisdiction laws state that the children have lived in for over 6 months, has jurisdiction. And of course, my lawyer, the Hatton, was awesome, and he immediately filed a jurisdiction case for rightful jurisdiction in Virginia. But on October 9th, 2018, the Honorable Judge Patricia Bennett claimed Texas jurisdiction violating the Uniform Child Custody Act of 1991 in accordance with Article 1, Section 202.1. Exclusive continuing jurisdiction is determined until a state determines that neither the child nor the child and one parent have a significant connection within the state, and that substantial evidence is no longer available in the state concerning the child's care, protection, training, and personal relationships. Jurisdiction will lie in the child's home state or in a state where the child has resided for the 6 months prior to filing the claim. Sorry guys, I lost my place. For 6 months prior to filing of the action. Any parent seeking custody must also reside in the state in which the custody action is filed for 6 months prior to filing the action. On October 9th, 2018, the Honorable Judge Patricia Bennett showed bias within the courtroom by aggressively manipulating and verbally assaulting me. But she manipulated Texas Code 153 by stating, "We have a federal parental kidnapping statute that says that if we have a parent that remains in Texas, the case should stay in Texas." That is a downright lie, just for the record. Again, she aggressively manipulated Texas Code 153 by ignoring a mediated settlement agreement, which is considered binding if signed by all parties or attorneys. On October 9, 2018, the Honorable Judge Patricia Bennett further showed bias and disregard for Texas state law, saying that just lets her move, that doesn't change jurisdiction. What's your response to the parental kidnapping statute? And then she went above and beyond to argue with my lawyer, trying to call me a kidnapper. And Mr. Hatton said, "I don't believe the parent kidnapping statute applies here, Your Honor, because she gave notice she was moving. She's been upfront and forthright the entire time of where she's going to be." The Honorable Judge Patricia Bennett responded, "That's not okay." So that is a personal opinion and not an opinion of law. If my mediated agreement, which is legally binding, was violated, in addition to federal jurisdiction laws being violated. Oh, and then she states, "Okay, well, I don't think you know what co-parenting means. This court is not going to decline jurisdiction. We're done." Now, throughout this trial, she was incredibly aggressive towards me. My lawyer was not allowed to cross-question Nicholas Leyva. He was never on the stand. This was done in like 10, 15 minutes. It was wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And nothing about it was legal. But it continues. I know, my story is insane, right? Hard to believe, it's a work of fiction. So, all of this happened. And on February 22nd, 2019, proceedings for final trial were then done by Honorable Judge Catterman. Now, Catterman is retired. I started bringing awareness to what happened to us during the jurisdiction trial, and so she brought in a retired judge to hear my case who couldn't have his career ruined because he was retired. Anyway, I immediately made Catterman aware of the Texas statutes in regards to the mediated divorce agreement and made him aware of the federal jurisdiction rights of Virginia. And he cut me off and said they were going to proceed due to Judge Patricia Bennett's jurisdiction ruling. The Honorable Judge Catterman expressed having no knowledge of the case and being completely unprepared. He said, "So you are going to have to tell me what this case is about. I have nothing to review beforehand. This is the first time in my 26 years of doing this that I wasn't able to read the file before we started." This type of statement was made multiple times. Lindsay Newell knowingly lied to Judge Catterman, stating that I refused to take my drug tests. What happened with the drug tests is of course, that was one of the accusations. They wanted me to go get drug tests, but they were really focused on getting a drug test for my nails. Hair or pee sample wouldn't be enough. And my issue with that is, okay, not everyone has nails. Like, I rock climb. Like, this is not enough for a drug test. Check my toes. Like, they're always destroyed. I never had pretty fingers. I've never had nails. So I go there to do that. And in the state of Texas, right after the trial, I complied immediately. Went in, she looked at my nails. She's like, "There's no way we can take a sample from this. I'm going to take pictures. I'm going to keep a record of this." And I said, "Hey, can I at least do a hair or pee sample just to show that I'm being compliant?" And they were having issues with their back room. She said that's not available right now. And I was like, okay. So they didn't get these test results immediately, which I think they were hoping to hinge the whole case on because they didn't have any evidence of anything else. I went back to Virginia, and next thing I know, Lindsay Newell is saying I refused. She used the word refused multiple times, saying I was refusing to take my drug tests, even though it's on record that I went in immediately and complied after my case. So I immediately went and was like, "I'm happy to comply. I'll find a place today." So I went out, drove around Virginia. The issue with it again is the nails. Virginia does not accept nail samples for drug tests. It's not considered proper evidence that's admissible in court. So that is different than Texas. And finally, the judge was like, "Fine, she can do a pee and hair test." Great, that's taken care of. Went in, did a pee and hair test. The results, I believe, were sent directly to either Nicholas Leyva or Lindsay Newell because they wrote down their information, and that's who they were submitting the drug test results to. So a couple of weeks later, I get a call saying, all your drug tests were negative. Okay, yeah, I knew that. I wasn't worried about that. So I took that information and I immediately submitted it into the courts as evidence. I sent copies to Lindsay Newell. Everybody knew that my drug tests were clean. And she literally stood there in court on February 22nd, 2019, with my negative drug tests in her hand and lied to his face, stating she's refusing to take her drug tests, Your Honor. It's just, again, it's unbelievable. In addition, Nicholas Leyva committed perjury on multiple points, stated just random facts that weren't facts, like that I drove my boyfriend's car to Texas to see the kids. And even if I did do that, I don't see how that's a bad thing. If somebody lets me use their car for a drive that's, hundreds of miles away, how is that any of your business? But it was my vehicle. And secondly, he stated, again, under oath, that he was in fear for my children's lives because I had borderline personality disorder and he was afraid I was going to hurt them. It's just wow. I have no history of any mental illness like that. There did not have any evidence of that. And in addition, I even put in a request. I was like, hey, please give me a psych evaluation, but while you're at it, give him one too. So that didn't happen. The Honorable Judge Catterman would not accept any evidence. Now this evidence was testimonies, notarized testimonies from witnesses to the lives of children I have lived in Virginia for over 4 years. And I'm talking friends, family, coaches, teachers, all the people who were in their day-to-day lives. And they were submitted through the court record submission online. Copies were sent to Lindsay Newell, etc. And none of them were I allowed to use in court. And in addition to that, they physically removed evidence from my hand, handed it to Judge Catterman, and said he would hold on to it for safekeeping. I mean, obviously I had copies. I'd already realized how corrupt this system was at this point, and I have copies of it. But the fact that they removed it and wouldn't give it back, like, that's even worse than not letting me use it or submit it. They didn't care about the truth. They just did not care. So during the case, they were unable to produce any evidence of neglect, abuse, danger to the well-being of children, or unsafe living situation. They simply used lies, hearsays, and snippets of Facebook posts. And when I say snippets of Facebook posts, I mean snippets. Like, they would take like half of a post or half of something I'd written or use it to try to make me look crazy. And that's against my First Amendment right. I am allowed to say my opinion on different topics, and that cannot be held account against me unless I'm saying I'm pro-hurting children. That is none of your freaking business. So I'm sorry, I'm getting angry. It was just so insane. Not a single person in our lives was able to speak on my behalf or the children's behalf. They did not do any investigation into our home life. They claimed that my children were in an unsafe situation, but after having pictures submitted through evidence showing their home and showing their bedrooms and showing where they lived, obviously they didn't want to do a home study. So no home study was conducted, no doctors or pediatricians were contacted, no counselors were contacted. They kept the fact that they lived in Virginia for over 4 years completely separate from the case as much as possible. So then the Honorable Judge Catterman gave Nicholas Leyva full custody of Joshua and Samuel Leyva, despite not being able to find any just cause for the removal of the children or any of the accusations to be true. He stated, "It is obvious that the relationship between, well, both of you and the children isn't working at this. I believe it is going to be necessary to make a change. Hopefully with the opportunity with the change is so that some normalization of the relationship between both the father and you and the children. For that reason, I am going to name Mr. You are continuing joint managing conservators, but I'd better name Mr. Leyva as primary with right to establish the children's residence in Tarrant County." This man knew he was lying on the stand. This man knew he was an alienator. Everybody in that courtroom knew that the actions and words of Nicholas Leyva were alienation and abuse and perjury. Every single one of them knew. And they just handed my children over to my abuser. It's just, I'm not gonna cry. I've not seen my children in 129 days. So this is hard. Okay. In addition to handing full custody over to Nicholas Leyva without any legal reason whatsoever, he granted Nicholas Leyva every single parenting request. Not a single request by Sarah Leyva was granted. And the one thing I was really pushing for was that they could not receive any prescripted medication without both of us signing on it. Nicholas Leyva had brought up wanting to drug my youngest child. He's a 7-year-old. He's a little wild, but that's okay. I don't believe in drugging children just to make them behave. I understand some children need it. Some cases are extreme, but Sammy was getting excellent grades. He was getting along with others. He was part of a soccer team. He was not having any social or education issues at the point that Nicholas was wanting to put him on ADHD medication. He simply wanted a more manageable child. And I couldn't even get that granted, even as a joint conservator. After the case, I filed multiple motions, which were then followed, oops, it's windy. I filed multiple motions, which I then followed up with phone calls to the courthouse. The clerk finally assured me, because she was tired of me driving her nuts, that Patricia Bennett had reviewed them and they would be heard at the next case. This never happened. Every motion was ignored except for Nicola Leiva's motion to sign, because of course I refused to sign the final court order because it was illegal. The motions I filed were emergency mandamus, motion for reconsideration, motion for dismissal, and emergency motion to transfer. I was able to acquire representation from Stephanie. At first I thought she was awesome. I'm still not sure what my opinion of her is, except for some other threats I've received. She recently was like, you need to be quiet, you're hurting your case, everyone can see what you post, you're crazy. She's like, I don't want to say it exactly, these were not her exact words, I'd need them in front of me, but I basically said I was unwell and that nothing illegal happened to me. I'm sorry, but if for someone to say that to me, I know that you were not fighting for me, and I know you were fighting for the courts. I don't know if she was initially fighting for me and then realized that she was over her head, and when she should have withdrawn herself. Instead, she made me compliant, complacent, making promises, saying, you know, they don't have anything against you, this is all hearsay, you don't need to worry. So yeah, that's again a totally different issue. Anyway, what happened is they did the motion to sign and were unable to sign at that exact moment due to an error in paperwork on the petitioner's side. Now, even though it was not signed, Nicholas Leiva immediately left the state of Texas, got on an airplane, went to get the kids. I'm getting emails, I'm getting phone calls saying, where are the kids? Are you hiding them? I promise I'll let you say goodbye. I'm still in the state of Texas. I still haven't even made it home yet. And to my knowledge, that order was not signed. I don't even think it was signed until Monday. I don't know the exact day it was signed, but from that point, I had no idea the order was signed. Therefore, he had no right to pick up my children. Again, during this time, I believe Stephanie Holland was building a case against Nicholas Leiva, that she was going to file motions to go over the final decree. There was evidence of neglect, abuse, and parental alienation, and consistent lies he had spoken while sworn under oath. So, 2020, January, it was actually January 27th, 2020, Honorable Judge Patricia Bennett dismissed my entire case against Nicholas Leiva. Instead, they held me and said if I did not assist immediately with handing the children over, I would be arrested. Yeah. So then she called the Amelia Courthouse, Virginia courts, and I guess spoke with Honorable Judge Valentine Southall Jr., who then turned around and issued a warrant to Amelia Sheriff's Station, forcefully removing Joshua and Samuel Leiva, who were 7 and 8 and at their grandparents' house on the time. Now, the first thing about this warrant, it stated that I had removed them from the state of Texas. They have never left Virginia. And secondly, I begged in that courtroom. I said, look, I will work with you. I don't want any trauma for my kids. I was like, my parents will meet Beth, who is Nicholas's mother. They will meet her at the airport. Please don't do this to my children. Please do not traumatize them. I will work with you. And they were like, we think police force is necessary. And Nicholas Leiva sat there and let it happen. He did not speak on the behalf of my children, not at all. Not once did he speak on the behalf of Joshua and Samuel Leiva. Police force was necessary. How disgusting is that? Okay, I was told, because there was extreme accusations of abuse and neglect, that they would take it seriously, and that there was a emergency trial held in Amelia for the make sure of the wellness of the children before transfer to Texas. And I have no idea what happened. It happened behind closed doors. There were no witnesses. I received zero paperwork. My parents were not permitted in the courtroom. My parents were not permitted in the room with the children. However, they did tell me they heard the advocate involved saying, don't you guys want to go to Texas? Don't you want to spend time with mommy and daddy? Mommy and daddy are waiting for you in Texas. I've not seen my children in 129 days. I have not seen my children since before I went to that trial. And, okay, truth over emotion, right, ladies? So all of this is happening, and I guess Beth goes and picks them up, and then I had this advocate in Texas who was 8 months pregnant. I don't know how pregnant she was. The point is that she was about to be a mother doing this to another mom. And everyone was telling me to comply. Everyone was telling me I was crazy. Everyone told me that I didn't know what the law was and that I wasn't a lawyer and that what they were doing was completely legal. So they just tried to talk me out of it. In addition, I was ordered, so they keep bringing me back into this courtroom. Because I hid/kidnapped my children, supposedly, there was an order that I can only have one supervised visitation a month within Tarrant County, Texas courts. This order was made by Patricia Baca Bennett. However, she reclused herself from my case when Women's Coalition publicly shared what was occurring to myself and my children on social media. My case was immediately transferred to Honorable Judge Navarez, who signed Judge Patricia Beckett's ruling. So he signed the ruling, but he didn't make the ruling, which I'm not sure is legal either. So Taylor McPherson, who was the atticus, had knowledge of Nick Leva's neglect and abuse tactics, or at the very least refused to do any type of discovery other than speaking with Nicholas Leva and his family. In addition, she attacked me for making the personal choice to homeschool my children. After the trauma of the children being kidnapped and trafficked to the state of Texas, she spoke against the children, I even being able to say goodbye. And again, no fault was found with me. She stated that they had a good relationship with their mother, but needed time to reconnect with their father. Wouldn't even let me say goodbye. Lastly, while all this was happening, Stephanie Holland did not defend me. She stood there and just said, answer the judge, answer the judge. She didn't speak against them taking the children out by police. When my supporters were removed from the courtroom because Lindsay Newell made the request, Holland did not request that Nick's supporters be removed. It was me by myself. Although I will say, I don't know if she wants me to name her in this video, there's one woman who was in the coalition who was ready. She stood up and she said, you know, Your Honor, I recluse myself as a witness. I am here to witness what is occurring in this courtroom today, blah, 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 legal stuff. But she's amazing, and she's helped me a lot. Well, she helped me a lot. And I believe that the only reason I did not go to jail that day is because of her. But yeah, that's what happened to me. I am fighting my butt off. You know, I finally filed charges of the extensive criminally abusive things that were specific thing that Nick did to me. And, you know, supposedly there is some kind of investigation happening in Texas. I've talked to FBI agents. I have talked to police officers. Everyone in the upper judicial branches have all told me to get legal representation, and they are total crap and they don't do their job. However, anybody who has been, you know, lower law enforcement or whatever has done everything in their power to assist me and have reviewed the affidavit and have reviewed emails Nicholas has sent to me, and basically everyone in Virginia knows who he is and what he has done. And the difference is they are attempting to assist me versus everyone in Texas knowing who he is and what he's done. Refusing to help me and put my children and me in an abusive, neglectful situation. Thankfully, I am still talking to them once a week. I don't know why, but I think he's trying to catch me on video or try to prove that I'm crazy in some way, but I'm gonna leave that in God's hands because I want to see my baby's face once a week. But yes, that is my story. Remember, truth over emotion. This is not about going after our exes. This is not going about being vindictive. This needs to be an unemotional as possible state of facts. Go after the root, hit the core of the problem. You know, our abusers, our alienators, yes, they are horrible people. However, they have no control and no ability to do what they are doing to us or our children without the support of these judges, lawyers, and advocates, okay? So we need to focus on laws that are broken so that we can bring them to light and then turn around and fight for new laws and just checks and balances. No judge should be immune. It should not have been this hard for me to fight for my children to come back. Somebody should have been able to look at this and immediately return my children. And I also want to state that I am super disappointed in both Texas and Virginia. Every single Virginia congressman, attorney general, mayor, governor, congressman, every single one from Texas and Virginia received a copy of this affidavit. Every single one. Shame on you. You're the reason that injustice is happening. Thanks for your time, guys.